It's a little more leisurely that way. You don't have to suit up, and people aren't coming in and combing your hair or whatever.
With a career stretching over 60 years, Clint Eastwood is a living legend in the entertainment industry, having set the standard followed by generations of actors. From his debut years in a popular Western TV series titled Rawhide to his remarkable acting in movies like The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, Dirty Harry, and many more movies, his legacy is nothing short of undeniable.
Any 10 actors I've ever seen.
Isn't she great?
A piano teacher with double cool.
As an actor and film director who has featured alongside many of his colleagues in the industry, some of these colleagues happen to be unfortunately in his bad books, and he has not been shy about it at 94. Today, we dive into revealing 6 actors that Clint Eastwood hated the most. Starting with number 6, we have Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is one actor who has won countless awards for his eccentric acting in several movies. A highly sought-after actor who has won the hearts of not just his fans, but also his colleagues, is never an easy person to hate. But that's not the case for Clint Eastwood.
Mike Westmore for the makeup, Mary Keats, the late Jean Burt Riley.
The tension between Robert De Niro and Clint Eastwood runs deeper than any personal disagreement. It's a fundamental clash of artistic philosophies that represents two completely different approaches to the craft of acting. While both men have achieved legendary status in Hollywood, their methods couldn't be more opposed, creating a professional friction that has simmered beneath the surface of the industry for decades. Eastwood has always been a man of instinct, believing that the best performances come from spontaneous, authentic moments that can't be manufactured through preparation.
Like especially The Godfather, I think, especially at that time in the late 60s.
De Niro, on the other hand, is the king of method acting, an approach that Eastwood views as pretentious and unnecessarily complicated. Where Eastwood sees natural talent and instinct, De Niro sees the need for exhaustive research, physical transformation, and psychological immersion.
You never know what you do that could be totally out of left field, which actually might work.
De Niro will spend months preparing for a role, learning new skills, changing his appearance, and diving so deep into a character's psychology that he sometimes struggles to emerge from it. This intensive preparation process is something that Eastwood finds not just unnecessary, but counterproductive to authentic storytelling.
Eli and myself, I had just met Eli, Sergio Leone had just...
According to Eastwood, his approach to acting is quite simple. Arrive on set, understand the character's basic motivations from the script, and let the camera capture whatever emerges naturally. This philosophy goes far beyond his performances to his directing style, where he famously shoots scenes in just 1 or 2 takes, trusting that the initial impulse will yield the most honest result. For Eastwood, over-preparation kills the magic, turning what should be a living, breathing performance into something calculated and artificial. For these two, the definition of authenticity itself strangely does not mean the same. Eastwood believes that true authenticity comes from the actor's genuine response to the material in the moment, unencumbered by layers of intellectual analysis or physical preparation. This is why he sees De Niro's method as a barrier between the actor and the truth of the scene, creating performances that feel studied rather than lived. In Eastwood's view, the audience can sense when an actor is performing, their preparation rather than simply being present in the moment. As a result of this philosophical divide, tensions in Hollywood between the two actors have remained inevitable, discouraging producers and directors from starring them in the same movie. For number 5, we have Sean Penn. When Sean Penn won the Oscar Best Actor award in 2004, Clint Eastwood was cited cheering him amongst the crowd. But celebrating one does not necessarily mean love.
It can be your best friend or your worst enemy. If your humility is intact, it's your best friend.
Before 2004, both actors collaborated on a movie titled Mystic River, a crime thriller film that was released in 2003. While Penn played the role of a former convict whose daughter was murdered, Eastwood was the director of the movie. Upon getting released, Mystic River did so well and was even nominated for several Oscar awards. However, shooting that movie ended up putting a strain on the relationship between Eastwood and Penn. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Penn bluntly exposed the difficulties he went through while working with Eastwood on Mystic River. In his words, "Clint Eastwood is a very unusual case. The conflict between Clint Eastwood and Sean Penn during the filming of Mystic River became the stuff of Hollywood legend, but what happened behind the cameras revealed a deeper philosophical divide that went far beyond typical on-set disagreements." According to crew members who witnessed the clash firsthand, the conflict stemmed from fundamentally different approaches to the relationship between personal beliefs and professional filmmaking, complicated by a generational gap that made compromise nearly impossible. Eastwood has always maintained a strict separation between his personal political views and his work as a filmmaker. Crew members described him as someone who believed the set should be a politics-free zone, where the only focus was getting the best possible performance and telling the story effectively. This wasn't just professional courtesy for Eastwood. It was a core principle of his directorial philosophy. He viewed the intrusion of personal politics into the creative process as unprofessional and potentially damaging to the collaborative environment necessary for good filmmaking. Penn, however, saw his celebrity platform as inseparable from their responsibility to speak out on social and political issues. Crew members recalled that Penn would often engage in political discussions between takes, viewing his activism as an integral part of who he was as an artist. For Penn, the idea of compartmentalizing his beliefs felt inauthentic and even cowardly. He believed that meaningful art couldn't exist in a political vacuum, and that artists had a duty to use their influence to address social injustices. The generational divide became apparent in how each man approached their craft and their role in Hollywood. Eastwood, shaped by the studio system and decades of experience, believed in old-school professionalism. Penn's generation, however, had grown up in an era where celebrity activism was not only accepted, but expected. A script supervisor who was present during several confrontations noted that Sean couldn't understand why anyone would want to check their conscience at the door. He saw Eastwood's approach as morally neutral at best and complicit at worst. Penn viewed Eastwood's insistence on political neutrality as a form of privilege, the luxury of someone who could afford to remain above the fray because the issues didn't directly affect him or his community. The practical implications of this philosophical divide created real problems on set. Crew members reported that Penn would sometimes use his characters' emotional scenes as springboards for discussions about social justice, drawing connections between the fictional tragedy and real-world injustices. A camera operator recalled, Sean would finish a particularly intense scene and then immediately start talking about how it related to some political issue he was passionate about. You could see Eastwood's jaw tighten every time it happened. Eastwood interpreted these moments as unprofessional disruptions that broke the creative flow and potentially influenced other actors' performances. While both actors remain cordial, they have not collaborated in any other movie again. Next up at number 4, we have Dustin Hoffman.
Tom Hanks and Max von Sydow and James Olmos and my good friend Gene Hackman for their wonderful work, even if they didn't vote for me.
Popularly known for his anti-heroes and emotionally vulnerable movie characters, Hoffman's acting is anything but average. From All the President's Men to Finding Neverland to the Kung Fu Panda film series, Hoffman has lived on set almost all his life and is absolutely great at what he does. While both men are undisputed masters of their craft, their approaches to preparation and performance development couldn't be more opposed, creating serious creative differences that have influenced their mutual respect and professional compatibility for decades.
A lot of these awards in the past, so thank you for accepting.
When it comes to his craft, Hoffman believes rehearsal is the foundation of all meaningful performance. His approach involves extensive preparation periods where scenes are worked and reworked until every gesture, inflection, and emotional beat has been explored and refined. Hoffman believes that true spontaneity can only emerge from a deep understanding of the material that comes through rigorous rehearsal. In his view, what Eastwood calls natural instinct is just laziness disguised as artistic philosophy. Real acting requires the kind of thorough preparation that allows an actor to be genuinely free within the structure of a fully realized character.
This goes to just about everybody I can think of, and I want to thank
Eastwood views the first take as sacred, believing that actors' initial instincts and raw emotional responses are far more valuable than anything that can be manufactured through repeated practice. In his directing work, he famously shoots scenes in 1 or 2 takes, trusting that the magic happens in those unrehearsed moments when actors are discovering their characters in real time rather than repeating predetermined choices.
I think some people tried to draw the significance that I was burying my past or something.
The fundamental disagreement lies in their understanding of what constitutes authentic performance. Eastwood sees Hoffman's extensive rehearsal process as artificial, creating performances that feel studied and calculated rather than genuinely lived. He believes that when actors over-rehearse, they lose the ability to surprise themselves and, by extension, the audience. Eastwood's ideal performance emerges from the actor's genuine response to the material in the moment, unencumbered by layers of predetermined choices that can make a scene feel stale before the camera even rolls. Hoffman views Eastwood's anti-rehearsal stance as fundamentally irresponsible and unprofessional. In Hoffman's understanding, acting is a craft that requires the same kind of rigorous preparation as classical music or surgery.
Finally, they saw her, and she came in, and
Hoffman once shared that you wouldn't want a surgeon who relied on instinct rather than extensive training and preparation. He sees Eastwood's approach as a relic of an earlier era when movie stars could get by on charisma and natural screen presence, but believes that serious dramatic acting requires the kind of deep character work that can only come through extensive rehearsal. This difference in acting professional approach has interestingly emerged as schools of thought, generating both admiration and criticism, wishing Hollywood and internationally. When Eastwood directs, he expects actors to arrive ready to work immediately, trusting their preparation and the material to guide them. And when these actors come with a contrary approach, it becomes a serious problem, subjecting them to unplanned disagreements with Eastwood, which in turn can pose a hindrance to the project. The irony of the conflict between Eastwood and Hoffman is that both approaches have produced extraordinary results. Eastwood's films are renowned for their emotional authenticity and natural performances, while Hoffman's heavily rehearsed work has created some of cinema's most memorable and psychologically complex characters. Their disagreement isn't about right versus wrong, but about two legitimate but incompatible philosophies of the creative process. Even though their mutual professional respect exists despite, not because of their creative differences, each man recognizes the other's talent while remaining convinced that his own approach is fundamentally superior. Moving on, at number 3, we have Jack Nicholson.
I guess this proves there are as many nuts in the Academy as anywhere else.
From Carnal Knowledge to The Shining, As Good as It Gets, The Departed, and many more iconic films, Jack Nicholson is widely celebrated for his extraordinary ability to immerse himself in his characters. His talent for bringing depth and realism to his roles leaves audiences deeply invested in the characters he portrays. With his mastery of interpreting complex characters, Nicholson effortlessly stood out in the film industry, earning acclaim for his captivating performances. At the peak of their stardom, Eastwood and Nicholson were two actors who everyone looked forward to their collaboration. However, that never happened, and the reason is one that has been whispered throughout Hollywood. The silent conflict between Clint Eastwood and Jack Nicholson is a typical example of what happens when two immovable forces exist in a place, a clash between two commanding personalities who have never learned to share the spotlight. Both men have spent decades as undisputed kings of their respective domains, creating an inevitable collision when their paths cross professionally. Their conflict isn't about acting methods or creative differences. It's about two alpha personalities who fundamentally cannot coexist in the same creative space without engaging in a subtle but persistent battle for dominance.
We want to make in Europe, Italian company.
Eastwood's commanding presence stems from his role as the ultimate filmmaker auteur, someone who has built his career on absolute control over every aspect of his projects. His authority is quiet but unshakable. He does not need to raise his voice or make grand gestures because everyone on set understands that his word is final. This kind of understated power has served him well for decades, allowing him to maintain creative control while fostering an efficient, no-nonsense working environment. Eastwood's dominance is institutional. It came from his proven track record and his ability to deliver results consistently. Nicholson's commanding personality operates on an entirely different frequency. His power is charismatic and mercurial, built on his ability to fill any room with his presence and bend others to his will through sheer force of personality. Nicholson has never been content to simply follow directions. He needs to be a collaborator, a creative partner, someone whose input shapes the final product. His dominance is personal and immediate. It came from his ability to charm, intimidate, and inspire others through the sheer magnetism of his personality. The major problem arises when these two types of commanding personalities attempt to work together. Eastwood's directorial authority requires actors to trust his vision and execute it without constant negotiation or creative input. His efficient working style depends on everyone understanding their role and performing it without extensive discussion or collaborative exploration. Nicholson, however, cannot simply take direction. His entire approach to acting depends on his ability to shape and influence the creative process through his interpretive insights and personality-driven choices. This created a professional standoff where neither man is willing to cede the ground necessary for productive collaboration. Eastwood expected the kind of respectful deference that comes naturally to most actors working with an established director, but Nicholson's personality made such deference nearly impossible. Nicholson cannot help but assert his creative authority, offering suggestions, questioning choices, and generally behaving like a co-creator rather than a hired performer. For Eastwood, this was an unacceptable challenge to his directorial authority and an inefficient disruption of his carefully honed creative process. As colleagues, they acknowledge each other's greatness while recognizing that collaboration between them would diminish each other. Next up at number 2, George Clooney.
It's a funny thing about winning an Academy Award, this will always be sort of synonymous with your name from here on in. It'll be
George Clooney is a versatile actor known for his charisma, range, and ability to convey depth in his characters. With a career spanning decades, Clooney has showcased his talent in various genres, from drama to comedy, and from television to film, as well as directing.
the Fourth Estate. They hate journalism. And my father's an anchorman and a newsman, and we've always believed in the idea of...
Interestingly, Clooney has once revealed in an interview that Eastwood's seamless combination of acting and directing was one of the major facts that inspired him to also delve into directing movies. Over time, the relationship between the two actors ended up degenerating to one of Hollywood's most public ideological battlegrounds, with their disagreement over political activism representing a fundamental divide about the proper role of celebrities in public discourse. What started as a respectful difference of opinion has evolved into a more pointed conflict, with both men making their positions increasingly clear through public statements and industry insiders, revealing the depth of their philosophical opposition.
Person who can take care of the things, not over.
Eastwood has consistently maintained that actors and directors should focus on their craft rather than using their celebrity status to influence political outcomes. His belief system centers on the idea that entertainment should provide escape and reflection rather than advocacy, and that celebrities who leverage their fame for political purposes are overstepping their bounds and potentially alienating audiences who simply want to enjoy movies.
But it's nice to have other things to fall back on, you know, as you get older and...
Clooney's philosophy, on the other hand, is entirely conflicting, believing that celebrity status comes with a moral obligation to speak out on important issues. His extensive work on human rights causes, from Darfur to marriage equality, reflects his conviction that remaining silent in the face of injustice is itself a political choice. Clooney has argued that artists have always been at the forefront of social movements, and that the idea of apolitical entertainment is both naive and historically inaccurate. His approach integrates activism seamlessly with his career, using his platform to raise awareness and funds for causes he believes are morally imperative. The divide between them became particularly pronounced during various political campaigns and international crises. According to a longtime Warner Brothers executive who has worked with both men, he revealed that Eastwood viewed Clooney's activism as fundamentally self-destructive from a business perspective, even when he might privately agree with some of the causes. This generational element has become a key component of their disagreement, with industry insiders noting that their disagreement extends beyond electoral politics to fundamental questions about artistic responsibility. And finally, at number 1, we have Barbra Streisand. Singer, actress, songwriter, director, and producer, Barbra went all out as far as entertainment is concerned and has remained an unforgettable name in the industry. More than just talented, it took being bold to stand out in the entertainment industry, a boldness that conflicted with Eastwood's authoritative directing style. Both legendary figures have built their careers on absolute creative control, making any potential collaboration a pack of competing visions and uncompromising artistic demands. Eastwood's authoritative approach was built on efficiency and results. He knows what he wants, communicates it clearly, and expects immediate execution without debate or extensive discussion. This approach has produced countless acclaimed films and established him as one of Hollywood's most reliable directors. As an actress with a proven ability to deliver extraordinary results, Barbra believes that an actor performs better when given complete creative freedom, which is impossible when Eastwood is directing. The problem is that Eastwood's directorial approach requires actors to trust his vision and execute it without constant negotiation or creative debate. His efficient working style depends on everyone understanding their role and performing it without questioning his decisions. Streisand, however, cannot simply take direction. Her entire approach to filmmaking depends on her ability to shape and influence every creative decision through her interpretive insights and exacting standards. In Eastwood's opinion, working with Barbra is both disturbing and disruptive. Industry insiders who've worked with them believe that neither Eastwood nor Barbra had any experience backing down, and neither one was about to start. Ultimately, both actors genuinely respect each other's talent, while finding each other's working methods completely unacceptable. What are your thoughts on these actors? Let's know in the comment section. Hit like, subscribe, and share for more videos.